This thing goes great on this type of terrain. In this video, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over the ENGWE, maybe is how you would say that, X24. This is like more of an all-around type fat tire e-bike. This comes in 3 sizes, by the way. There's the X20, X24, and X26, which is a behemoth. I decided to go with the mid-range, which is an X24, but already I can tell you, it's a pretty big bike just looking at it right here. So what I'm going to do in this video is first I'm just going to go through the specs, and then I'll start back here at the back tire and just kind of like work down all of the features and components on this, because I don't know if you look at this thing, but this thing's kind of like the Cybertruck of e-bikes. Look at all the different components on this thing. There's some crazy stuff going on right here, right here. So I will get into that. So I will leave chapters below if you want to skip through the components and specs and just go straight to the ride test. So yeah, let's get into the walkthrough now. Okay, starting back here with where the power comes from. This is delivered out of a 1,000 watt hub drive motor, and their claim is it goes up to 1,200 watts, but because it has a meter on the display that tells you the watt output, this thing, I've got it up to 1,500 watts. I'm pretty sure I've seen it spike to 1,700 in sport mode, which is very impressive out of a hub drive motor right there. 70 Newton meters, it's very smooth power. I will get into that into the ride test. So enough about the hub motor. Let's check out these batteries on this thing. 2 batteries. This is something very interesting. I've never seen anything like this before. This is a dual battery setup. There's a battery contained in here, 48 volt, 10 amp hour battery contained right here, and then inside this seat stem is a 48 volt 19.2 amp hour battery. So combined you're looking at almost 30 amp hours of power coming out of these 2 batteries. Think of like on the old days motorcycle where you have a reserve tank, you turn a switch. That's exactly what this battery is to me. You'll run this down when it gets around about 50%. I'll reach under the seat, hit this little button right here, it turns green, and you see this cord right here, it's running, and these batteries will run into parallel. The older model, I think you had to move a wire around, but not on this one. It's just a button under the seat. Very impressive. And you'll see this thing will jump. I had it down to about 80% one time. I turned on that battery just to test it, and within 5 minutes, I was almost at 100. That was so cool how it just went from this to that. And the charge time on these things will run you around about 6 to 8 hours to charge both batteries. And by the way, you will get a set of keys. See how I can't take that off? You get these 2 sets of keys right here, and one of them's kind of like a key on a Coke machine, and you'll put in here, and that's how you'll open this battery up. And then the other battery's contained inside the frame, and that's where you'll need this one right here. There's no key to run the bike, just to take the batteries off. You get 2 of them. So I guess nobody can swipe your batteries. And the combined range that they have on these 2 batteries is 93 miles, almost 100 miles of range on these 2 batteries. I probably logged 60, 70 miles on these 2 batteries, and that was using a combination of eco mode to sport mode to pedaling only. I've actually never ran these completely down, but you know what? With all these features and those 2 extra batteries comes with a cost. What is that? This bike weighs almost 100 pounds. This is a 100-pound e-bike. So just so you know, picking it up, I can lift it, but it's not light. You can get the 1 battery option. You could just run off of this battery, take this one out, and save you some weight. But you know what? Why would you do that? Just run them both. I can pedal it without a battery, up hills, down hills, flat ground. So I think you can too. 330-pound rider on this before you tap this thing out. The lowest setting, they recommend 5.6 to 6.5, maybe 6.8. You can lift this up this high. So this is a perfect size bike for me. I really like having the smaller tires and more kind of movement around. It just feels like it fits me better. Okay, there's all the specs. Let me go ahead and start breaking this down. I'm just going to do a rapid fire from the back tire all the way to the front tire up to the handlebars. So let's go ahead and let's do the kind of walk through of the components now. Okay, it does have a derailleur guard, and it looks like it has the Turney XL derailleur on the back, and this is an 8-speed shifting on it. So these shocks, I will come back to these because I want to talk about this tri-shock setup in a separate when all together. Check it out. This comes off once you build it right. That will come off. This can be either a rack for a bag, or you can, they don't recommend this to be a back seat. It's a gear rack, and they just put it on there to give it a more streamlined look. Does that not look cool? Look how that looks streamlined. So it is, I might add some pegs back here. You know, the max weight back here is like 50 pounds, suggested max weight. So good luck on that. I have had a passenger back here and I have rode someone on it, but ENGWE doesn't recommend it, and I don't recommend it. It's not a passenger, it's not a two-person bike. This is a one-person bike. So what I do like about this is a tail light and brake light that's into the battery, but then they also have another one right up under here. So you have two tail lights on this thing. 180 millimeter hydraulic disc brakes in both the back and front. Very impressive on the brakes. Trust me, you want hydraulic brakes on a bike of this size. 100 pounds on this thing. Surprisingly, the size of this bike and these brakes, they work really well. The tires on this thing are Chow Yang tires. They're 24x4 fat tires. I like the 24x4. Total max is 20 PSI, so it's the same. It has more like an all-around tread. These tires work fine. I've been using this bike for about 2 to 3 months now, putting it really through its paces. I've not had a flat yet. Pretty large chainring in the front. You know, I think that's where this thing gets a lot of its good speed. I've got other e-bikes that have a smaller chainring up here. Here's that internal shock. I'll come back to that because I want to cover the shocks all at once. Check out the geometry on this thing. So this thing has a very interesting geometry. You got a long stem there and this kind of geometry that goes back. I think it looks kind of neat. I get a lot of questions about this bike while I'm out riding it. I would get me maybe a lizard skin and put on here and just kind of like go up under that to kind of combat that. But you know what? It doesn't bother me. I've been leaving it like this just to kind of show in the video to show how it wears. So maybe ENGWE could put maybe a little guard right there, a little stick-on guard, and I think that'll help that a lot. Cord management could be better. I would like to see these. I get it why they're not running it inside the frame because there's a battery in there. So they're running the cords under here and around. The cord management this kind of looks like an old telephone cord from 1983. But you know what? I think it's kind of funny to look at. But they did put a little thing right here because apparently it was banging at one time. And by the way, you will hear it bang a little bit. I might do something and maybe put a zip tie or something to hold that up, but I think it's fine. I think it's more of a conversation piece. So this lever right here, everybody, they're calling this a folding fat tire bike. Technically, yes, it is folding, but it is a behemoth to unfold, you know, to fold this thing up. Now, you can, where it would come in handy if you was going to put it in storage, say for like the winter or something, remove your batteries, fold it up, and then it's a very small package. I'm not going to fold this thing up because it's so hard to get in and out. I do hear the battery rattling around in here a little bit, and I will try to like put something on top of the battery to quieten that down. That's kind of annoying from time to time, but you know what, it's not that bad. Onto the shocks. It's more like a dual crown shock up here. Very interesting how they did this shock system on this bike. You know, when you look at it, it's like you got an adjustment here. See how high it is? So you can go, this is more like a lockout. This seems to work. The compression, when you go about right there, it seems to be a little bit. This preload doesn't seem to do much over here. I have adjusted it and tried it out, but you know, I haven't seen much out of it. 750 pounds, and it looks like it's an HLT shock. And to me, I don't know if you need that, but these work. These are adjustable right here. You can screw them down to make the spring tighter or more loose by doing it like that. Do both sides. So technically you got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 shocks on this thing when you count these as 2. That's pretty funny actually. These do work if you do jumps and hard impacts. I got these to come in. Some people were saying that these don't work and they're kind of useless. I disagree. I think they will work on jumps. If I was doing like a little curb jump, I was jumping off a little hill, and I seen them flex. I could feel them flex back there. This one right here, I agree, doesn't do much. If it just does a little bit and helps a flex, I guess what it could do is help not flex the frame and maybe save your frame, because if you look, there's several areas here that would move on jumps or movement, so that way this back area will move independently a little better. Even if it just moves a little bit, everybody, I still say it works. To me, I think it does something. Headlight, I thought the headlight was pretty good. Just buy you an aftermarket headlight set and put on here. I have a really bright headlight that I just slap on right there and it will shine way. This one I push all the way down so it gets more this area, and then my other one gets that distance. So I recommend getting an aftermarket headlight on these bikes anyway. It's a small investment that you can switch from bike to bike because I change bikes so much. Okay, now moving on to the cockpit area, the handlebar area, because there is a lot going on up here. Let me just kind of like straddle this thing and show you what what's going on up here. Locking hand grips that are more ergonomic hand grips. These are these ergo hand grips. Very comfortable, resting my hand there. Some of the best hand grips I've seen on a bike. I really like that. I like it when they put good hand grips on there. This is a Shimano 8-speed shifter, and it's on the bottom. Thumb shift to downshift here and to upshift. You go right up there with the trigger. Very easily accessible. I did loosen that bolt and move it in just a little bit because when you're riding just normally, that was biting into the back of my hand and it hurt. So out of the box, you might have to grab that and slide it over just a little bit. Left-handed throttle. It's got like a little NAR grip on the throttle there. Works just fine. Once again, when I got this bike in, I loosened these bolts and moved my levers down right here, but the brake levers are very comfortable. I don't see any branding on them, but you know what? They are single piston hydraulic disc brakes, and they seem to work very, very good for a bike of this size. Considering how big this bike is, I'm impressed by them. And this is the right hand is the back and the left hand is the front, just so you know that. It does have a little horn right up under here. Kind of sounds like a little life meter. Pad over here that you're going to hold down the power button. ENGWE comes up, pops up right here. There's my battery percentage. I love it when a company does battery percentage. There's the speed, mile per hour. I'm in normal mode, total distance. And then you're going to hit this I button right here. Trip distance, power, trip time, and max speed. See that? Almost 37 miles an hour. Average speed 16.7. And then over here, you mash right, this little right one, and then hold that down, and you will see the headlight come on. So as soon as that headlight comes on, it dimmed the display, but you can see the headlight is on right now. To go through the modes, you're gonna go down right there through the modes. This does have a walking mode on it. Check this out. If you hold down on this, the minus, and you're going to need it. Trust me, you're going to need it pushing this thing up a hill. Use that walking mode if you need to push it anywhere. And then if you want to adjust the settings, hold down the plus and minus, everybody. It brings you into this display. I'm going to kind of do you can clear it, you can set it up. And here's where you do your units, your brightness, your auto power, your speed limiter. First thing I did was come in here and turn it directly all the way up. But you can turn it, you can adjust it to whatever speed you want. Personalize, cruise control, auto headlight. This is a feature that I wish more bikes did. You can adjust the P1 to P5 to whatever you want, whether it's, I've got it on 20% on the P1 and 99% on P5, so it'll give you whatever power you set that at. Very handy that they did that. I actually like that a lot. That's a good feature right there. There it is, everybody. That's all the specs and the walkthrough of all the parts and pieces on this thing, and kind of like a brief rundown of what I think about it. Let's cut over to some ride testing where I do 1 through 5 speed testing, then I'll come back here and give you my final thoughts. So let's get to ride testing now. First, I'm going to do it just as a bike only, then I'll go through 1 through 5 on the speed test. So I got my speedometer here, got my phone mount up. We are ready. Put the safety glasses on, turn it on, and I'm going to start out in normal mode, eco modes, whatever, but let's just start out in normal mode and start this thing riding. Okay, first off, let's just ride it as a normal bike. Well, let's lock this shock out. There we go. Shock is locked out because we are on a bike trail. I'm definitely feeling the weight. Let's downshift a little bit. You know, the rolling resistance there and the weight is pulling really hard. I feel that heavy bike. It is a heavy bike, that's obvious, but not bad. 11. This is a normal cruising bike. Speedometer looks pretty close, actually. Feels pretty good, just as a normal bike. So let's go ahead and let's put it on pedal assist 1. It is on normal 1. And what this thing does, it limits the power. Okay, you see it spiked to 118 watts. So 7 miles per hour, I'm just cruising along on 7 miles per hour. And it only gives me the power when I need it. Let's go ahead and kick this thing to 2. On 2 right away, it just pulsed 38 watts. Very interesting how they did a controller. Let's go to 3, pedal assist 3. It just bumped to 171 watts. And it seems to be holding pretty good at 13, 14 miles an hour. A steady 78 watts. Pedal assist 4. Ooh, that was a big bump between 3 and 4. It spiked up to 700 watts of power. I love having a power meter on there. It's holding right at 170 as far as like total 210. Okay, now let's bump this thing up to 5. We are in 5 normal, 100% battery. Let's go ahead. Let's get out of the gate. Let's go ahead and shift. Let's see what it does. Okay. Whoa, you can feel that kick. 1400 watts right out of the gate. 1407. Holding. Okay, see, drastic jump between 4 and 5. Let's try a quick brake test. Let me go to this sign right here and watch this. Both brakes. That's pretty good from that speed. Look at that skid mark right there. I'm gonna get off the trail, get on the main road and see how fast I can get it going with just the pedal assist 5. 1500 watt spike up. 27 going up a hill. This is just pedal assist 5 right here. So there it is. I'm gonna call, so let's go ahead and say pedal assist 5 can easily hit 28. Very good. Now let's put it in sport. Hold down that I. Sport pedal assist 5. 29. I gained 1 mile per hour. I've had this thing as fast as 36, by the way. 27. I'm going up a pretty steep hill right here. Woo! 35. Okay, everybody, it's safe to say, you know, between 1 through 5, you can adjust the power however you want it. But what, just out of the factory setting, you've seen it all right there. And then when you go in sport mode, what it does, I think it gives you about 10% more power. So I have been riding this bike off and on for around about 2 or 3 months now. Let me go ahead and just cut over to some regular riding around. Then I'll come back and I'll give you my final thoughts. Still getting a little bit of battery wobble up there. I think this is about as hard as a mountain bike. You want to push this thing. This thing goes great on this type of terrain. Whoa! Got some hang time on that. I felt the tires spinning in the air. And this suspension seems to be holding up to everything I'm throwing at it. See how my knee raises right here and goes up? You can catch that with the corner of your knee right here, and that does not feel good. Man, these big tires just roll over everything. All right, for my final thoughts on this bike, what do I really like about this thing? Number one, the coolness factor. I think it looks awesome. The shape and all of the shape right here, the way it's set up, I think that looks really cool. Kind of gives a really cool effect. Gets me a lot of compliments and questions. Number two, the range. The range is phenomenal on this thing. They nailed it on the range. I'm guessing I could get probably 70 miles easily. They claim 93, but I can easily get up to 70 miles, maybe 80 miles between charges. Size of this thing, I really like the 24-inch tires. I think the 24 might be the way to go on a fat tire bike, is these 24s. Maybe higher, maybe the 26 are better suited for like the thinner cruiser style or a gravel bike, but I really like these 24-inch. Not as small as the 20, not as big as the 26. Seems to hit that happy medium, so good job on that for offering a 24-inch option. The display on this thing is so good. This is one of the better displays I've seen on a bike. They did a good job on the display. It has every feature in there. One thing I'd like to see on it is like to see some app control. Most of the apps that I've seen don't do that much, but I like to be able to adjust my bike through the app or connect it to the app just to kind of like track my data a little better. Really cool looking back rack. I think that looks cool having that back rack. I put a bag back here. I usually just strap a backpack down back here. Okay, so now on to what I think they could improve on in this bike. Number one, I think the wire management could be a little cleaner. They could maybe clean this wire management up, but you know what? That's kind of nitpicking for me. I don't think it's that bad. It's heavy. This is a heavy bike. Could see some people, it might be a little heavy. Go with the X20 because I think the X20 will be a lighter bike overall and it won't be as heavy. It comes with one battery instead of two, and I think it's a better setup if you're a smaller rider, if you're not as strong as someone like me, where, you know, to lug this thing around. But I seem to do just fine on it. I'd like to see the suspension changed up just a little bit. Maybe go with a little lighter components on these suspension. Maybe even lose this one altogether, or maybe put a bar or something there. I don't even think you need that. You can have this flex more than have this like a flat bar, and that would work just as fine if it makes it a little lighter. So yeah, overall, I don't have that many cons with this thing. I think it's a great bike for the price. I think you get a good value for the price. I've been pushing it pretty hard over the past few months, and it's been good to me. I ride this thing everywhere. I've put hundreds of miles on this thing. Hopefully I can get thousands of miles on it. One thing I might upgrade, I might put some fenders on it. Mine didn't come with fenders, maybe some do, but I might put one of those little short fenders back here. I don't think you need it up here because of all this. But other than that, I'm not really going to do anything at all with this thing. I like the color. I like the bike. I think it does everything as advertised. I will leave links below where you can get the X20, the X24, and the X26, and the gear that I use in these videos too. So yeah, leave a comment below if you use one of these bikes, if you're familiar with this ENGWE brand, what you think about them, because I've heard nothing but good things about this company, customer service, bikes, everything. So yeah, there it is, everybody. That's all I got on the ENGWE X24. See y'all in the next video.